Hey everyone, welcome back to the Girl Dad Girls. We are here with the best group of girls in the history of the world. I've got the QT Danny B. I've got my bestie Bree St. Marie. Of course, I am Ravishing Rachel. And then today, let me tell you, I'm so freaking pumped. We have got an absolutely amazing guest today. Her name's Emily. You're gonna love her. Emily, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Emily. My pronouns are she, her. I've been in transition for I guess about 7 years, and we can get into why I'm a little confused about how long it actually is. And when I came out, I was really shocked by the response I got. There was positive response, and I didn't even think that that was possible. And that set me down on this path to help share that information with others and make sure that other people like me knew that they were not alone, that it was possible for you to come out and live as yourself and be happy. So I started down this path and eventually started the transgender show, where I interview people each week, and we share our stories of transition and gender exploration. Then from that, I built an entire organization around that to help trans people through their journey. So that's the Transverse, and those are the sort of things I'm doing these days.
Is that
That's
a?
amazing.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rachel.
I was gonna say that's amazing. I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
Awesome.
So like you said, like you have a weekly show. Like, where's that show at? Is that on YouTube? Is that on Instagram? Like, where's that at?
It's on Twitch. It's live on Twitch on Tuesday
Oh
nights at
wow.
6 p.m. Pacific. And the thing I like about Twitch, the reason I glommed onto that was one, I'm honestly, I'm kind of bad at social media, but two, I loved the idea of having the live audience there, the live chat where people can interact, ask questions, throw in feedback and all of that, and really be a part of the conversation. So, and unfortunately, Twitch being what it is hasn't been super successful for us, but we've done pretty good on YouTube with our videos there. And the way that it has really resonated with people, it was as a podcast.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay.
Like, I guess what was it that I guess how did you get started with that? Did you start like a nonprofit, or was this just sort of something that you started kind of like this podcast where we just sort of said, hey, let's just do this?
I just started the show as I want to do this, and I'm going to figure it out. The main thing is I in 2019, as I started to kind of accept my gender identity, the fact that I was trans, I decided that I needed to follow some trans girls. So I started doing that on Instagram and finding more and more people to follow and just kind of see what it was to be trans. And for a long time, even thereafter, trying to figure out, am I really trans? Like, am I really trans? Am I making a mistake? Am I really trans? But one of them, Megan Bound, said that she was going live on, she did a live on Instagram. So she was going live on Twitch. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. Followed her over there. It was fun watching her. Then she talked about a show that she was on, which was the Transvengers. And it was 4 girls who got together every week and answered questions live about their gender experience. And that was what sparked it, because I had this idea that I need to get this information out to people. And I'd been in Toastmasters, so I was working on my ability to speak in public, and was trying to kind of find a venue, find a way to disseminate this information. And when I saw Twitch and I saw the fact that you could have a live show, have the chat there and have everybody interacting, I'm like, okay, that was just the light bulb, the epiphany. And I started very soon thereafter. And so on June, oh, why am I blanking? It's either June 6th or June 8th, whatever the Monday was in 2020 was when I started.
Oh
And we
wow.
haven't looked back. We've hit about, we're almost to the 145th episode. So, yeah.
Oh
That's
crap. That's
amazing.
awesome.
Hey, we'll get
Wow.
there one day.
And I maybe I shouldn't mention this yet. I don't know. We actually are gonna have one of the OG Transvengers on our show here very, very soon.
Nice. Who did you get?
And confidential information.
Okay.
That's where
We'll
I'm gonna
tell
draw
we'll
the
tell you
line.
after the cut.
I gotta tell you, I
But
have been friends with Michaela for a couple of years now. Like, I've got her number, we text and all of that, and I have not been able to get that B word on the show. Still trying. I gotta bug her again.
Hmm.
It's okay. Maybe somebody can put in a word.
Maybe someone can
Like I
put
said, I've
in.
got the direct connection. I can put in the word. I can, call her, or I can message her fiance and be like, "Hey, get her on my show." I'm actually, the funny thing is, I'm actually better friends with Michaela's mom than Michaela herself. But
Interesting.
That's funny.
I love how we're like just a community. You know what I
yes,
mean?
Mhm.
Like for the most part, we are a freaking community. Not always going to see eye to eye on every little thing, but for the most part, we're here for each other, and I love
Yeah.
that.
Well, yeah. There's the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Like with trans people, it's not even that many. It's like maybe 3, and you can get to anybody in the trans community.
It's
That's
yeah, and
so
I've
true.
noticed on Instagram especially, like reaching out to people. I honestly, before I started transitioning, I used to reach out to people that, had 25, 30, 40,000 followers, just like maybe drummers or something. We're talking about drumming soon, but I'd reach out to like famous drummers or whatever that had like these massive followings, never hear back. But
Mhm.
I've realized that you reach out to trans girls who have these big followings, and they're just so nice, and they respond.
Mhm.
Everybody's just
Oh
really,
yeah.
really friendly and helpful.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you something. You mentioned is you said that you had a good experience coming out. Did you have people that you thought were going to have a bad reaction that actually had a much better reaction than you were expecting?
Yeah, so it was a weird sort of out of body experience for me when I actually officially came out. Like it was at work was where it happened. I'd sort of been doing stuff here and there, but it was, very dipping the toe in. And one day, just randomly, I got up and I put makeup on, I dressed in a blouse and a skirt and heels and drove to work. No word to them, no conversation with HR, nothing. And this was a global company. We had over 200 people just in my office alone. And I was driving into work, and then all of a sudden, I'm about halfway there. I sort of like snap into consciousness, and I'm like, "Oh my God, what am I doing?" I'm going to go there. I'm going to lose my job. No one's going to talk to me again. I just had this massive panic,
Oh,
and like I said, it was a really out of body experience. At that moment, I couldn't understand what had driven me to dress the way I did. It was really strange, and I I look back, and luckily, I say I had a boss who was just really anal about the clock, and I because of him, I did not have the option of turning around and going back home and
oh
changing my
wow.
clothes. So I was in this panic state, and I was stuck, and I had this weird third person conversation with myself, and I'm like, okay, I don't know why we decided to dress this way this morning. Like right now, I'm not feeling it, I'm not understanding it, but there was a reason, and it was important to us enough to where we're in this situation. So the only thing we can do is honor ourselves, get our own back, and go in and hold our head up high. And it was like the longest walk ever from my car to the front door of the office, and then just praying the entire time that nobody came in the elevator with me. Luckily, I was alone there, and then walking through the office, I tried to keep my head up and be like, nothing to see here, like nothing different, no big deal.
Everything's normal.
Yeah, everything's normal. But inside, I was just like, oh, this is my last day at work. And it wasn't too long after I was at work where people started stopping by my desk or sending emails or calling me and basically congratulating me, saying,
Oh,
I can't imagine the level of courage it took for you to come in and express yourself. A lot of people impressed with the courage, and just so happy for me that I was being my true self. And like I said, at
yeah.
that point, I could not fathom that response. That was not a possibility in my brain. I was like really confused at first.
It,
If you don't,
just real quick, I realized it took me a while, but I started to realize it was both good and bad. But the fact that I wasn't the center of everyone else's universe like I thought I was really depressing at first. But then I was like, oh wow, no one cares that I'm doing this. They just, as long as I'm not hurting them, they don't care. Which is like, oh no, nobody cares, but nobody cares. So
Yes.
that's awesome.
Yeah, you're like,
Now,
oh yay, nobody cares. Wait, nobody
Nobody
cares?
cares.
Like nobody?
Where
Maybe one, please.
you and feel free to tell me to shut the fudge up. But where about in the world are you?
Oh, I'm in Southern California.
Okay, cool.
So, California, one of the better states for LGBT acceptance and all of that. And this specific city, a little bit more conservative. But yeah, the thing that I found was that the people that are that really have your back are really sweet and really kind, caring people are the ones that'll come up and say something and send you an email and all that and be there. They'll show up for you. And the ones that have a problem with it, they just kind of that I'm picturing the meme of Homer Simpson just fading into the bush.
Yeah.
That's just what happens.
Oh my gosh, I'm
And
gonna do that.
you are,
That. Bam.
yeah, you're so sure that you got this fear built up in your head, and you're so sure that it's going to be this massively negative reaction. I should speak in the first person tense. Like I was just so convinced that those were the people that were going to show up, that were going to be coming at me, and be on the attack. And like I said, they just, I didn't see any of them. I didn't see much at all. It was like I said, it was hard to understand in that moment. It was a very confusing day.
Yeah.
now,
I can definitely sympathize with that. That kind of sounds like my experience. All of my coworkers were amazing, but some of my residents have been kind of shits. So that was the worst part of it. But they're dinosaurs, so it's fine. Sorry, everybody, but it's true.
Hey, Breeze residents, fuck you.
Yeah, I'm leaving anyway.
I don't work there, so it's okay. I can say it.
now,
Sorry.
like my
Go ahead.
experience was kind of
Oh,
the opposite. But I'm just curious, what I'm not gonna pry and ask what the company is, but what is the line of work? Is this more like IT? Is this more like retail? Like what kind of business are we talking about?
It was essentially a consulting service, helping make products and services better.
Got you. Okay, that's cool.
Is this sort of, again, I guess, also feel free to not answer this, but would you say the average age is on the older side or younger side?
It was when I came into the company, it was just switching over from being a family company. They just sold it and sold out. And so one of the things that I always said about it is it was amazing because the way it was run was very corporate, very money and numbers, and that whole, the whole typical why am I blanking? Jesus, capitalism thing. Just the whole, it was just pure capitalism. And yet they still managed to hire amazing people, really smart, hardworking, and really kind people. And so one of the things that I loved to do was I was really involved in the employee groups, and I knew pretty much everybody there. And it was just a really good, it maintained that family atmosphere in large part. And I don't think it had anything to do with that or whatever, but because of the growth that we had and a lot of things, we had a lot of young people that were coming in. We had a lot of the old guard who had been there since the company was since when the company was founded. And it was a really good mix. It was a good mix. So it was everybody. It was all walks of life.
Yeah, I found that, so I work in tech, and I came out, I was expecting to have a lot of pushback, and it was seamless. Everybody was just like, congratulations. I think they realized that if they had a negative reaction, HR was going to get involved pretty quickly. But it's interesting that you were worried about losing your job. How did you what did you think was going to happen? Do you think like your boss was going to say, no one wants to work with you, you're out of here? It just seems like a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Yeah, and there wasn't a lot of logic to it, and there wasn't an understanding of the law. It was just like this can't be acceptable to people.
Really?
I had so much built up internalized homo or transphobia, or just the understanding that society does not like people like that. And I had so little understanding of the community and what the identity meant, where it came from. I was still struggling with, is this just a fetish? Is this something that comes from a kink? So, I came from such an uneducated place within about the community. And then as far as rights and all of that, knew none of that. I just thought, yeah, I'm going to go in. They're going to say, thank you, but no.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And like, I fully get that, because when I came out, I was working in retail sales, and my immediate thought, and I literally, from when I started my transition medically to when I actually came out, was about a good 6 months. Like, it wasn't immediate. Like, I was on hormones for a while before I came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I told my boss, literally crying in her office, I'm like, I don't even know if you want me working here anymore, because you're not going to want someone like me interacting with the customers. And she looks at me and she's like, you're being stupid. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, I know, but still.
Yeah, but you have to agree with me, because
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's that do or die moment that we've all had, and then comes with that moment is all the irrationality of everything that can happen, will happen, and probably won't happen, but you still think it will.
Mm-hmm.
Like the you going up to your to the chopping block through the elevator, so to speak.
Yeah,
which would be ridiculous, but I still think that too. I came in
and then
my first day when I was out, and is just like, oh, I'm done. I thought the same thing. I'm like, I am toast today. Like, irrationally, no reason. Didn't
all
happen
over.
though.
Bye.
Still here. Yeah. Toodaloo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's funny because, well, when was it? It was a while later. I'm a little foggy on the details, but I want to say it was more than 2 weeks later. But I got a strange unmarked email meeting request from HR. And I'm like, okay, so I survived that first period, but now here it comes. And I walk in, and it's just the HR guy in the office that has in the one office in the whole building that had no windows to it whatsoever, and the one solid door. And it's just the HR guy, and I'm like, crap. And then he's not really saying anything, and my boss walks in after that, and I'm like, okay, yep, that's it. We had a good run. And the first thing he said was, first thing we want to say, of course, speaking for the company, is that there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. And he just launched into his whole thing. And they were really supportive. My boss was very quiet. He and I did not get along well. He did not we never had any direct conversations about it, other than sort of what happened in that room. And he didn't, like I said, he didn't talk much, but yeah, it never came up. We were just always, there was always a ton of friction for multiple reasons, but yeah. So I did have a brief panic of like, okay, now I'm losing my job. That was, I don't know, a persistent thing.
I love that that you said it was a brief panic of like, I'm gonna lose my job, because, and I'm not proud of this, but it's a story that needs to be told. The reason I came out at work when I did was because I knew that I was on the chopping block. I was on the chopping block for sales performance. And so I sit down with my boss and I'm like, listen, I said, there's something that's going on. and my head hasn't been in the right place because of this. And she's like, okay. And I'm like, well, I'm sure some people have noticed that I've started wearing tighter jeans, that I haven't cut my hair, that I got my ears pierced, that I bought pink shoes because I thought they were nice and frilly. Well, this is what happens. So it's like, this is what's happening. And I chuckle because my best friend who works at that same store heard my boss telling one of the assistant managers, well, we can't fire them now.
No.
Get it.
Like, boom, protected class. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You wanted that lawsuit?
Shield.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Buy me a boat.
I dare you to fire me now.
Yeah. All
wait.
I hear is Star Trek. Shields up.
Well, and you know, somebody mentioned Matrix earlier, and I just picture Morpheus.
Oh yeah.
How long ago was you said you came out at work? How long ago?
I believe that was actually I'm really unclear about it. I think it was 7 or 8 years ago.
Oh wow, okay.
So
yeah, I think the December of 2015, I think it was.
Wow.
So
Around
on that note, you kind of steered into my next question, Danny. I was going to ask you when we first started the episode, you were a little non-committal on when you started your transition.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know that story.
Okay. So this moment where I showed up at work, you know, I'd already been doing a bunch of work. I was currently separated from my wife because I needed to explore whatever this was. I was getting to the point of going out in public. I was obviously shopping for myself a lot. I believe I had my ears pierced. Yeah, I had my ears pierced at that point and was doing some of those same things that you were on sort of a stealth level, Rachel. But I was building up to it and had no understanding of what it was. I came out at work as a cross-dresser. I went after that thing happened at work and went and told my family, came out to my parents and my brothers as a cross-dresser and lived as such for a while. It was actually the females at work that like pushed me hard into using the women's restroom. And I wouldn't do that until I changed my name with the company. I still haven't done it legally, and we can get into that in a minute. But you know, that I was fearful of every single next step in transition. I was terrified. I had it in my brain that at some point something was going to kick in and I was going to regret it. I was going to realize that this was just a whatever and it was going to go away and I'd be, you know, left in this position of like, just kidding, y'all. And I was terrified of that. So each step I really resisted and pushed back hard on. So sorry for the combination of words there, but I think I was in that stasis at work, identifying as a cross-dresser, using my dead name, dead pronouns, and the men's restroom for at least a year, if not closer to 2.
Oh, wow.
And then I did both at the same time. I changed the name to Emily. They did it really quickly. It was wonderful. I had an email within a couple hours, you know, that had my new name on it and was welcomed with open arms into the women's restroom. And it was wonderful. But even with that was like, at that point, I was like, I might be trans.
Yeah.
And so that I think when I came out, it was, to answer the previous question a little bit more accurately, I think it was December of 2016, and then it was 2019 towards the end when I started to be like, okay, the egg is cracked. I held on to every single piece of the egg I could, even though it was falling away, as long as I could. And then in 2019, I just couldn't deny it anymore and just had to to immerse myself in the community and start finding people and start trying to really figure out what this is. And it was about that time. There was one period, and I forget exactly where it was in the timeline. It was a really crucial moment for me. I just told myself, okay, we're gonna give this a year, and in that year, I'm not going to ask any questions. I'm not going to ask any questions about like what this is or why or any of those sorts of things. I'm just going to let it be what it is. I'm going to do what feels good, and I'm going to explore and just let myself be. And that was the most important thing that I did, is just allow myself to explore this without worrying about what it was, without worrying about what it meant for anything. I just gave myself that permission to explore for a year, and that helped a lot.
Wow.
Love it.
One of the things that I did want to like kind of highlight, because I know this is something that happened to me, is you were mentioned that like every little step you were like questioning. Like, I know for me, essentially, like when I first started wearing like nail polish before I even started dressing in women's clothing, like I remember going out and being like terrified that people were going to be judging that. And then wearing like women's jeans, and I was like, this is like every little step was like that, pushing that little boundary. And I know a lot of people, like I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were talking about maybe just wearing like tighter jeans, and they're like, I'm terrified to do this. And it's like, dude, like it's fine. Honestly, you do it one time, and every time you do it, you feel a little bit better. Now I go out looking like a slut, and it's awesome.
Let it go.
I just remember being paranoid to go anywhere, even if that anywhere is Walmart. Like, we've all seen the people of Walmart videos and some of the wacky ass shit that goes on in Walmart, pardon my French. But like I was so afraid to be like wearing skinny jeans and a t-shirt inside Walmart. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, dude, you're stupid. Like nowadays, I'm sitting here, I'm like, that was so dumb.
Did any of y'all do this one? This is the one where looking back, I'm like, of course you were trans. Like, of course this was something else, because I got into buying women's clothes in sizes that were ridiculously big. Like there were like 6 sizes too big, so that they fit like men's clothes. So I could still pass with and be and be stealth about it, but wearing women's clothes. And that was another one of those things later where I look back, and when I was trying to figure everything out and decide if I really was trans, I'm like, well, does that make any sense? Like, it was so important that they were women's clothes, that you wore them in a way that did not look flattering or feminine in any way, and yet it felt good to you that it was women's clothes, and that was the key to it. Like, that doesn't make any sense other than to answer that yes, you're trans, because you want to wear the clothes that fit who you are inside. And it was a weird thing.
I never had that experience, but my big thing, and it's stupid, but my big thing was I would go to Walmart, because Walmart was like my OG. Like, that's where I lived. I would go to Walmart and I would get a basket, not a cart, but a basket. And I would fill it up with like 2 or 3 clothing items that I wanted, right? And then I would get a like hat out of the dude section, and I would put it on top. I didn't need the hat. I bought the hat. I didn't need the hat. But
I was always getting stuff from my girlfriend. My girlfriend.
When I'm walking down the aisle, no one can see what's underneath the hat, right? At least that's what I'm telling myself.
Yeah, that's it exactly.
Well, yeah,
that was it exactly. And first off, I'm going to tell everybody how old I am. My OG was Mervin's, so that's how far back I go.
I don't even know,
but I got big into Kohl's and Kohl's and JC Penney were my big 2, with Macy's as a close third. And I have a whole lot of just sentiment, nostalgia to the Thousand Oaks Mall, the JCPenney and the Macy's there, and then the Kohl's that's close by. Like that was where so much of it happened. So many memories.
Oddly
But
enough,
you know, my thing, I got into JCPenney. I would go there, and when I was getting to this point of allowing myself to finally explore this and do these things, I went way overboard. Like it was extremely manic. The pendulum swung so far that I would go through and I would load women's clothes on my arm, on my left arm. I didn't have a cart or a basket. I would just, you know, oh, that top is cute there. Ooh, a dress. Ooh, that's very exciting. And then whatever. And load my arm up to the point where it hurt, like it was burning.
Yep.
And then now I was on there was a women's floor and the men's floor, so I couldn't really at that point do the thing that I usually did, which was to cover it with something that was men's, you know, same exact trick. But I would find something generic, androgynous enough, something that wasn't obvious, and throw it over the top. Then I would go downstairs and they actually had a suit section that was in the back corner, and there was a dressing room there that no one was ever anywhere near. And so I went in and I would try on all my clothes. And like I said, I had a whole load of them. And then the funny thing, I was so terrified of being found out, you know, even the little possibilities, that I would not put the clothes that I didn't want to buy there in the dressing room or on the rack outside. I would take them all the way back upstairs and put away each individual one, or find a women's rack, a women's go back rack, and put them there. Like, but for the most part, I would take every single thing back to where I had found it, because I could not leave any breadcrumbs of evidence.
I
So I actually
just
did do the thing that you're talking about with the buying the different clothes that were oversized and shit. Except it was all andro stuff, and this was like October, November, December last year. But as long as it said women's on it, like your Mervin's is to my Amazon, right? So that just things showing up on the front porch. But that's when I started showing up to work in all this andro stuff, and that eventually led to where we are now. But that's real quick. None of y'all know this, but how I came out at work was a very slow burn. It wasn't like an immediate thing. I changed my my email signature from one day it was my dead name to just B. And then it was, I started putting my pronouns in there. It went from B, he, them, to B, they, them. And then it switched over to Bree, she, them. And then Brianna, she, her. And that took like 4 months to do. Oh, and I basically confused the shit out of everybody for so long. They're like, where does it end?
So now I'm getting curious as we're talking about names and coming out at work and da-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-da. I'm curious, did anyone here in this room here, did anyone pilot a different name? Or were you all just like dead set?
When I first came out, when I first came out in 2016, so I came out in 2016 and for about a month and then went back in the closet, but I was going to be Emily. So,
oh yeah. I didn't do anything publicly. I've only had a few in the back of my head. I wanted to stay, and in the end, I kind of made the decision to like stay close to my original, you know, roll off the tongue name a little bit.
What else did we have? I'm just curious. I'm being nosy. I love it.
I'll tell you if you don't laugh as hard as you want to, but you can laugh still. Willa. Yeah, Willa or Thea.
Willa?
I could see Thea.
Oh, I know Thea. Oh, that's fun.
Emily, how about you?
It was so far off. I thought in my head it would just weird out my family even more, which again was that irrational fear of things, but you know, whatever.
I love it.
But I always say that there's something really sweet and nice about a name that still pays homage to the name that they gave you, and still, ties into that to, include your family in a way.
Yeah, I mean, mine too are essentially so similar.
You're star. You're star.
Yeah, I thought about the feminized version of my name, and it just never seemed right. When I tried out Emily and I started using it, I liked the name, but then I wouldn't say it felt like it fit. It felt pretty alien for a while, but it really did seem to fit well. And I'm in that I liked it, and other people said that it fit me well. So I'm like, okay, good. I just went through the list of names that I really liked, of like Michelle or Stephanie. I had a good list, but all of those names at that time, I knew somebody named that, or like somebody's daughter was that, and I'm like, I can't name myself after somebody else or their dog. So I had this long list, and then I just crossed off all the ones that that I knew somebody, or it would seem a little weird, and Emily was the winner.
I love that.
When I picked Danielle, I actually knew a Danielle, and I, for some reason, apologized to her. I said, "Hey, I'm using this name, sorry." And I had to pick a D because I have DHB written on everything, and so I had to pick a D. And my mom's name is Holly, so my middle name is Holly now. So that played well with the H. My dad's first name was David, so that's where I got that. So I was like, you know what? Let's go with take my dad's first name, and now take my mom's first name.
Mm-hmm. I feminized my middle name, and because Emily Michelle works really well. I like it.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
I love that.
I tried going similar to my old name. I was gonna go with Brittany.
I could see the Brittany. Oh my god.
It's Brittany, bitch.
Yo, like a small piece of me regrets that decision. Just because of that line. Like that tagline would have been perfect.
Right.
But honestly, for me, having the names be so similar for me, I don't know why, but that caused me to like feel dysphoric about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like hearing the short name for Brittany, Brit, which is generally what I went with, sounded so close to my old name, I just couldn't do it. I could not take it. So I pivoted and I went with Alexa, Lexi for short. But here's the problem is when I imagine Lexi in my head, she's long blonde hair and a size 0.
Yeah.
Me, myself at the time was 6 foot, 250 pounds and brunette. Like just did not match what I pictured in my head. Mm-hmm. Now I'm closer, but it just didn't match what I had in my head. And I got thinking, and my parents had often told me, if you were born female, if you were born a girl, your name was going to be Rachel. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, ka-ching! So I took it, and when I changed my name at the doctor's office, I walked in, and Dr. Pendleton, bless his little baby soul, I love him. He walks in, he goes, I hear we changed our name to Rachel. And I was like, yep. And he goes, I got to tell you, it suits you. And I'm sitting here, I'm like,
yay.
Shut up, Doc. I'm already in love with you. Come on.
I am, though. Like, sorry.
Was this the same one that you touched his knee and everything wasn't the same again? Oh, Pindy.
Dr. P.
Oh, that's funny.
The one thing that's kind of funny, and it's disappointing that Rachel, that you didn't try out Brianna for a while, because Danny was considering Emily. Rachel would have been the feminization of my name, the sort of close feminization of my name. So it would have made a nice little loop there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Brie.
Sorry, before we get too far away from it, I think there's something that needs a little clarification
Uh-oh.
about the transverse. Am I
Which we haven't even
counting?
mentioned yet. Yeah.
Am I counting this right? There are 6 parts to it.
You know what? Honestly, at this point, I don't even know how many parts there are. We had a little bit of a falling apart, and I'm still trying to rebuild. So, yeah, depending on the day, I'm more clear or more confused. So, what are the
Okay.
6 parts that you have that you see there?
We have the transistence, keep living, all on the table, behind open doors, and then this
Mm.
little one with 2 swords.
So the timeline that we didn't dive into when you asked that question was I started the transgender show, did that for about 6 months, and then I had some people start to approach me that were like, I really like what you're doing and I want to help. One person in particular really pushed me to form a company and make it into something, because I had this aspiration of making it into a media network featuring a lot of trans creators and doing different things. So the transgender show, and we would have some others that featured information and sort of help for trans people, but then a lot of other things that just happen to have a trans person in it doing cool things to help normalize, that would have a broader appeal. So that was the basic premise there. And so we started so the transgender show, Valkyrie's the one with the 2 swords, was one of the other early ones from Megan Bound's stream. I had gotten in with her mods and we started playing Fortnite. We had our crew, and we were playing Fortnite every week, and we'd do that on stream. And then you mentioned Behind Open Doors, which one of my main partners in starting the company did that one. It was a sex and intimacy show, another interview show, but about sex and relationships and intimacy and all that kind of stuff. And then Transistence, our news show, All on the Table, which we've actually spun off into its own thing now because it was too much for me to oversee at the point where I'm at right now. Jen Giggles is running that, and they have their own Twitch channel now. That's our tabletop gaming monster now. They've got a whole bunch of shows and stuff that they're doing. It's great. So yeah, it just there were a lot of different properties that we came up with, a bunch of different shows, and they've really ebbed and flowed. Keep Living was wonderful. That's a Black non-binary creator who was with us for a little while, and then had to move. A bunch of life changes happened, and life happens. So we officially started as a company, a 3-person partnership in January of 2021. And then by the end of that year, we had to dissolve that because one of the partners left. And since then, it's sort of been a slow burn, a slow decline, as we kind of scrambled to try and keep things together and keep things moving forward. But basically, yeah, without going too deep into it, where I'm at now is I'm sort of doing it a bit solo. I've got some support. I've got our IT person in Australia who's taken the community center. We have a large Discord. She took that and has rebranded it and is running that on her own. So a lot of the pieces are still there, but as far as them being directly into the Transverse now, it's been something that I haven't been able to wrestle with, because you lose 5 or 6 people in the span of a couple months, and I don't know how y'all would react, but it sent me into a pretty deep depression, and I've been struggling to come out of that and keep everything going and keep positive. But yeah, it's hit me personally very hard. And I still believe that Transverse can be everything that I'd hoped it would be, which was just basically everything that trans people need. But I'm at a point right now where I'm a little bit further from achieving that goal than I would like to be.
Gotcha. And you don't have to go into it if you don't want to, but a certain guest of ours you worked with for quite some time, correct?
Mm-hmm. I'm assuming you're talking about More Than Mimi, Minnesota
Yes.
Mimi now? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody, there was a period where it sort of shifted, but for the first 2 years, everybody that was part of the Transverse was somebody I had interviewed. You come on the transgender show, and then we just had a really good time, built a good rapport, and wanted to come on, and so we would do figure out where to put you and get you started. And Michelle has Michelle, who goes by Mimi, also has a television production background and editing background. And so I'm like, okay, I was at the point right then where I needed to step up higher and focus more on the business than the media stuff, because I was really entrenched in the media and coming up with these new shows and getting people and doing that whole thing. And I envisioned passing that off to Michelle and having her be the director of media, and then I would step up and just do more overseeing managerial stuff. And we did some good things for a while, and then with an organization that we did not crack the code for bringing in money, and we started as a for-profit partnership, which sort of fell apart. And the next step was, okay, we need to make this. The next decision was we need this to be a nonprofit, and we need to bring in grants and things for the different things that we're doing. And with just subsequent stumbling blocks, it was just something we were never able to accomplish. And so we've never been actually funded. We've got some community money coming in. We've got some great Patreon supporters and things like that. But without having legit funding and really paying people, they can't stay around very long. At some point, they have to go get a day job, or they have to cut back the involvement so much that they're not able to put a bunch of time into it. And Michelle has been so busy with the job that she took that she hasn't been able to really help in several months. And we're excited that she's on the verge of being able to come back and help us in a big way. But she was one of the ones that we essentially lost in that period. So
gotcha.
That's what it is.
Something like one of the things that I wanted to ask, and this is, I guess, kind of related to the Transverse, with the amount of, I guess, notoriety that the Transverse is getting, do you find that you personally become like a target of any of these right-wing like groups? I know I feel like a lot of people, once you become more visible, you just they become a bigger and bigger target for people who want to, who need a scapegoat, they want to hate on trans people. So why not go to the Transverse, target you? I feel like you're not, nothing that you're doing is so just like out there, like forcing it on people. It's like, here's resources for the people in the community, as opposed to, here's how we militarize trans people and take over cis life. Are you finding that you're getting the kind of like negative notoriety that I feel like a lot of people get when you start getting more and more visible?
No, and I think there's multiple reasons for that. One, we haven't reached a big notoriety. We haven't gotten enough momentum behind us. Within the community, we're fairly well known, but outside, we just haven't hit anything yet. That was I sort of chuckled to myself when you were asking that question, because that was one of the things I told the partners early on, was that that would be the thing that will rocket us to the level we need to be to get in front of the eyeballs. Is we need to get some major right-wing group pissed off at us. We need like the Million Moms or somebody to come after us hard, and that will be the thing that puts us on the map. And fortunately and unfortunately, that hasn't happened yet. And so, I haven't even been able to get onto Matt Walsh's radar. And I specifically put out a promo for one of my guests, calling him out and Calling him a liar. And then on my new show, I've said it a few times, but I think we're just two small potatoes still. And that's a bummer, but that's also a really good thing, because we're able to help a lot of people and keep them safe. So when we started, there were three partners that started the corporation. One was in charge of business, I was in charge of the media, and then the other one was in charge of the community. And we built a Discord community from the 80 people that I had at that point up to, I think it's about 1,400 right now. And we were able to build it slowly and keep it safe the whole time, and build in the tools to keep it really safe and make sure that everybody in there is either good people from the community, allies, or if they're a bad actor, they're caught very quickly, they're out, and they're not able to cause a lot of damage.
Were you seeing a lot of bad actors coming in?
Yeah. You definitely would get a bunch. And that's why it was wonderful. We were partnered with oh my God, I'm blanking completely on Isabel's original Pride Shield. We had partnered with Isabel, who was a British girl who I had interviewed, and she had this thing that was protecting Discord servers, and she folded that up, and we took up that mantle. And in a week, Rosa, the person who's in charge of Discord community, built Aegis, which was our security, our blanking on the word. But yeah, it just provided security for Discord communities. And the way that real quick, just the way that it works, I'm on a roll here. If you ban somebody on your Discord server, if you're part of Aegis, you ban somebody on your Discord server, you send into Aegis all of their information and why you banned them. And then every week we send out a report of who was banned and why. And then you balance that against your terms of service and decide if that's a bannable offense on your server or not. And if it rises to that level, then you can preemptively ban them before they even get to your server. And she was able to work it in where not only are we protecting LGBT Discord servers, but also LGBT Twitch streamers as well. So we expanded it, and that's been a great thing to not only keep our server safe, but keep the other servers in the community safe.
Wow.
And
amazing.
As far as not getting hate from the right wing side of things, I guess the way I look at it, generally, unless you're doing something asinine, it's pretty easy to do. You know what I mean? Like, I just think back to, there was a decent trans creator who didn't get any hate, didn't get a lot of hate until recently when the top came off at the White House, and then she got a bunch of it because we did something that was asinine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, my 2 cents on it. Like, or if it involves minors, because that'll get the right wings.
Yeah. Well, that's been a tough one too, and we've unfortunately stayed kind of out of the underage the conversation entirely. Discord is 13 plus, and we do allow young people in, but it's very monitored and regulated, and they don't have access to much of the server. And so we've primarily stayed 18 plus for our content and for the people that we cater to on our server.
I do. I love that. I think that's very smart. I think that's a great business decision. And I mean, it sucks, but at the same point, you have to guard yourself. And I think that's smart.
It was really strange. It was really not strange. It was a very educational experience to go through building a community online where you're trying to keep people safe, and it's a community that is so targeted, and it's so targeted, and from that, it's so traumatized. Everybody in the trans community has been through some kind of trauma. And like you saw in my story, I didn't experience a lot of it out externally, but internally, I was traumatized to hell and back because I did it to myself. So we all come from some point of trauma, unless I guess there's the rare exception to that. I guess we can't, say blanket statements, but for the most part, there is trauma involved in everybody's experience in the trans community. So when you get people together, the larger the community gets, the more problems there are within the community. And when you're trying to provide a safe space for everyone, but also include everyone, and we hate gatekeeping, we're very much against gatekeeping. And so we have a lot of different people with a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different needs, and those different trauma points. And so moderating that, keeping everybody being civil, keeping the conversation good and light, and making sure that people are having the conversations in the rooms where it's appropriate. Holy crap, is that a lot of work?
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, as far as like trans groups, most of what I see is in Facebook. Like I honestly never got into Discord. Like that never was my thing. I tried, bless my soul, I tried. It just was not my thing. But I will it never ceases to amaze me when I'm in just like a trans support group on Facebook, and the next thing you know, there's someone's grandma taking their clothes off and posting pictures, and I'm like, not the space, grandma. Like, move that to a different group. Like, not the space.
That's another problem, right? Is the trans community is very thirsty.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That's the truest thing I've heard in months.
Yes.
Not us. Never.
No.
Before we get too far away from it, one of the things you were talking about trauma. One of the things that we had talked about when we were first setting up this, we were preparing for this or before we started, you'd mentioned some suicidal thoughts, ideations.
Mm-hmm.
When you were talking about trauma, I feel like we've all kind of been to that point. I know with me, I've gotten to the point of ideation and actually planning out. I got to the point where I was planning out, like, what's the best day to do it where it's not going to affect my kid. And it turns out it's a Saturday. So yeah, you mind, like, I know you said that you don't mind digging into that. Is that something that you could tell us a little bit about?
Oh yeah. Again, like, keep in mind my story of coming out and how long it took me once I was out to understand that I was trans. Like, I didn't conceive of it so long. The only thing that I thought for most of my life was that there was something wrong with me. I did not fit into the world, and I had no idea why. I had this kink that sort of started to show up as I got, a puberty age, probably about, 11, 12, 13 was when this thing started to come out, and I was ashamed of it, like sneaking my mom's clothes out of the hamper and stuff. And it was just very, very shameful. And the only thing I had a grasp on was that I was some kind of deviant, and this was fetish. It was only negativity. There was no understanding of being trans, or that being trans or a cross-dresser or some other kind of identity or whatever was okay. The only thought I had in my mind was that there was something very wrong with me. Yeah. And
same.
You're in life, you've got to deal with it. So I just kind of kept trying to go through, kept trying to fit in, trying to figure out how to be a guy, trying to understand why it was that guys thought and acted the way they did a lot of times. Like some of it kind of came natural to me, but then other stuff just didn't make any sense. How, especially once we got into high school, like how guys talked about girls and how they looked at girls. And it's like, okay, I can look and see she's pretty, and I want to get to know her, and I want to connect with her on an emotional level, but I want to F that, or like all of the crass things. There was just so much, like, why do I not understand that? Why do I not fit with that at all? And like I said, it always turned back until way, way late in my life that there was just something wrong with me. And you don't have to think that very many times and hit into situations where you get depressed for other things. Maybe some things aren't going right, to where you'll turn to that ideation as the way out. Like, I don't belong here. The world won't miss me. I don't fit, and yeah, just basically I shouldn't be here.
Did you have a beard? I know for me it was working out. Like I told myself, if I keep working out, I'm going to eventually like this body. So I started working out, doing push-ups every day. Hey, Rachel.
I know. You know that's where my mind went.
Basically, yeah, like I got to the point where it's like I was working out every day to, too exhausted, like hurting myself, because I was like, so one of these days I'm gonna like this body, and the more I did it, the less I liked it. Did you have any, were you doing anything like that, like, growing an actual beard, like doing things that you thought were like manly that you should be doing? Um, sorry, I didn't mean to segue, but
No, that's great, and it is tied in. It's tied in very, very directly. I just tried to kind of toughen myself up and prove to my friends that I was tough and a little crazy. I got into a thing where I would just basically punch everything. I was desensitizing my fists so I could, my school featured a lot of I-beam girders in the design. It was very much like a prison. But I'd go around punching those and hitting my head on things and just doing whatever I could to cause myself pain, but then also prove to others that I could take pain and that sort of thing. That was a big thing I got into, and sort of related to along that same vein. I had a girlfriend. I finally got a girlfriend late in high school, and I don't know. That's when things started to sort of. There was a little bit of an unraveling there. And I felt like a lack of dedication to her, but that I should be dedicated to her. Like I should be like all in on this or whatever. And so I actually took a push pin and I carved her name into my arm. And not a razor, not something that was quick. It was something that was very slow, deliberately very painful. And I ended up wearing a hoodie, a black hoodie, because that was all I had in throughout the summer in Southern California, because I had to cover that up and not let anybody see that. But those were the sort of things at that period. And that was my first bout with the suicidal ideation and just absolutely hating myself. And so yeah, to mask what was wrong with me and try and sort of play it off, there was a lot of that kind of pseudo toughness.
And that resonates so much with me. Like, we did it very different ways, but for me, like, it was more internal. Like, I had to constantly prove to myself just how masculine I was. And when I got comfortable at this level, we needed to go up. And when I got comfortable here, we had to go up and up. And I don't know, it's scary. Like, it really is.
Yeah.
yeah.
Anytime you've got something like that you're not dealing with, that you don't understand about yourself, and you're not able to discuss or think about, like it was all shove it away, like it's bad, shove it away. Anytime you're doing that, it's just going to build to something nasty, because you have those emotions, they're there, they have to come out and express themselves in some way. And the more you ignore them, the more you fight them, the worse they manifest.
And I feel like well, just like with addiction, I know that like a lot of the trans women that I know have suffered at least some point of their life. I know for me, I even up until recently, drinking has been a big point of contention. For those who are interested, this is non-alcoholic. Boom.
I was gonna ask you.
Yeah, I've been doing a shit ton of the booch. I'm a boochie hoochie. But we're actually gonna do an episode on addiction, because I know I've been a pretty heavy alcoholic, but that was my way of dealing with it and hurting myself, because I realized if I could drink myself to death, then it would be painful, but it it wouldn't be putting a gun to my head or, jumping off a bridge, which seem like, yeah, just sort of terrifying. I feel like drinking yourself to death is a slow,
Yeah.
slow process.
Oh, yeah.
I
It
resonate
is.
with that a lot too. I never attempted suicide because I never thought that I would attempt suicide. I never thought that it would be an attempt. I would do it in a way that I succeeded.
Yeah. Well,
And so it was an absolute, I had to be sure that this was the thing that I was going to do, because I wasn't going to do a bunch of pills or whatever. I wasn't going to do anything that had any kind of way out. Like it was a Golden Gate Bridge sort of a thing, or nothing.
yeah. I guess for anybody listening on listening to the podcast, especially if it's like an ally, one of the things that I've kind of told myself is, if somebody tells you that they're, suicidal, believe them. But the thing is, I knew that for me, I wasn't going to tell anybody. I was just going to do it. I feel like telling people is a cry for help, but I was just, so if you're suspicious of somebody but they haven't told you, definitely there's a possibility that they are just kind of in that, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to tell anybody because I don't want someone to stop me.
It's very true.
So,
I would not have. My parents actually even got me to a therapist at that time, and I would not tell them anything. I lied up one side and down the other. Like I didn't let anything slip. And that's a really good point. Like some of the people that are the closest to actually doing it are the ones that are going to talk the least about it.
yeah. So if anybody listening, if you have suspicions, follow up, because you never know. I mean, it's better to ask, and it's better to, I don't know. I wouldn't even know how to go about doing that. But if yeah, like you said, the people who are closest to it, or the ones who are actually planning on it, probably won't tell you because they don't want you to stop them. So,
And I am going to pivot because Emily kind of went right where I was going. But
I'm sorry, Rachel, to cut you off there. Before we go there, can we just talk about the 988 helpline and how important that is, that everybody remember that that's there
Yeah.
now? That's something that we didn't have when we were kids. We didn't, know that what help was there. Right now, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're watching, whatever you're doing, put it in your phone, save it in your phone as a thing, put it in there very intentionally, and do it now. You may not need it now. You may not ever need it, but that's not the point. The point is that if you take it and you put it in your phone and you're very intentional about it, if you ever get to that situation again, you'll know in the back of your mind that that's there. You'll know that you have that resource, and hopefully that will help you. So yes, 988, you can text it, you can call it any day, time, or whatever, and they're there for you. Don't let yourself go through this alone, because we've been there. It's terrible. It's not worth it. You're more important than that. And if you take this one little step right now of putting it in your phone and having it there, I really hope and I really believe it will make a difference for you at some point.
Yeah. And I mean, and obviously anybody listening to this, I know we all three of us seem like we have it all together. But yeah, all four of us, Emily definitely does. I know Bree, Rachel, and I are kind of meandering our way through this life. But yeah, we've all been there. It does get better. If you're having ideations of that stuff, please seek help. We're going to put it right here, and I'm going to do a graphic. It's going to be awesome. I've put a lap in here so I know exactly what time to look for. Thank you, Emily. That's perfect. That is.
We'll also put it in the description down below too.
Down there.
Mm-hmm.
In the top corner.
And on that point, we've all kind of alluded to it, so I'm gonna just say it up front. Therapy's awesome. Like, if honestly, like, there's even just transitioning, there's a lot that goes into it. There's so much emotionally, mentally, physically. Don't steer away from therapy. Don't stigmatize it. Like, therapy's awesome. I probably wouldn't be who I am without my therapist. So I mean, just don't steer away from it just because it's something that you don't think you need. Like it's something that, you know, that's what weenies do. That's what babies do. Like therapy can be healthy. Therapy can be awesome.
They
Yeah, it
can.
is.
I'm a
Yeah.
very firm believer that everybody needs therapy. And it's not just us and where we are. It benefits everybody. Just even if it's
I
talking
think
to somebody that is not involved in your own
Mhm.
shit. Like just getting it all out there on the table to somebody that not that they don't matter, but the term not involved is very important when it comes to therapy.
Yeah. I think I've told my parents this on a number of occasions, because we talk about everything. But I feel like every single person, trans, not trans, old, young, everyone could benefit from therapy in one way or another.
Yeah. Absolutely do
Absolutely.
not do what I did.
Yeah,
talk
right.
talk to a therapist. And one thing that I've found a lot in interviewing a ton of people is transition doesn't solve the things. It makes us feel a lot better about ourselves. It's a much better life, living as your true authentic self. But there are a ton of things that it doesn't solve, because there are a ton of things about you that are not related to the fact that you're trans. And when you're worried about coming out and all of that, it all sort of like accumulates together. And I think a lot of times we have this in our brain that coming out and transitioning will solve all the problems. And then if I feel that that's a big danger for young or closeted trans folks who are looking to transition, that this is going to be a panacea that's going to fix everything. And then once you do transition and it doesn't fix all the things, you still do have some problems, some issues, dysphoria, different things. The problem is that you'll think you could potentially think, I'm doing something wrong, this isn't right for me or whatever, and that's not the case. It's just there's a lot of other things going on, and that's why therapy is wonderful.
Right. Transitioning doesn't fix you. It just opens new doors to new problems. Not saying that in a bad way, but there are a host of new issues
There are
that get
definitely
presented to you, and new hurdles to jump over that are just so strange.
Endless. Yeah, they're just new challenges that you never could have seen coming.
It is
what now?
I always say, like, I traded society wanting me to kill myself, so I didn't want to kill myself. So, like, transitioning, society doesn't, I mean, like, in the media, society seems to not like me as much as they like a cis white guy, but I like me a lot better than I like being a cis white guy. So,
and that's what matters.
Yeah. And, that's fantastic. I'm looking at the time, and I wanted to make sure that we got in some of the more lighthearted questions for those people who really love our silliness.
It's been a bit deep. Yeah.
One of the questions.
Let's lighten the mood.
I did have this really off the cuff question that I definitely did not prep you for at all,
and I totally have an answer for.
Well, you don't even know what the question is.
No, but that's how good I am after all of these interviews that I've done and things like this. I think on my feet like that. Like it's
Emily, get out of my head. Stop.
Mine like a steel trap.
Hey, Emily, what is your transition theme song?
Wow, what an interesting question. Oh,
I mean, honestly, anybody who's watched at least one episode of the podcast is gonna know we're gonna ask this question. So.
Danny, and I love how you said it in like the most Bob Barker tone.
Yeah.
What is?
Come on down. What is your transition theme song? And while you're at it, what's your transition movie?
Oh yeah, we did that one too, actually. Yeah. On the spot, bam.
Again, going back to the fact that I pushed back so hard, and I was so far away from understanding the fact that I was trans that I didn't allow myself really to ever get into listening to female artists and pop stuff. Like I've always been a hard rock girl. And since starting to understand yourself and starting to allow yourself to transition and do these new things and explore things, it really opens up a lot where you're like, oh, I can do this now, and I'll let myself try that. And so that's wonderful. So I've gotten into some Taylor Swift. I love me Shake It Off. Another one that I found because of Beat Saber on the Oculus was KDA's Pop Stars, which I think might be the one I'm going to go with. But also through my friends, the Valkyries, and the fact that we were playing Fortnite every week, they released a, oh my God, my brain today, Dua Lipa song as an emote in there. And a couple of us really fell in love with that. And I still love that one. And it was her biggest hit, and I'm trying to think of what the heck the name of it is.
Not the one that she did with where she like it was like a rip off of like Madonna song or something, or no?
Is it Don't Start Now?
It is Don't Start Now. I just found it. Yeah. I was like, I can sing it. That's gonna go poorly. And gonna be horribly embarrassing. So I'm glad that we found it.
But you can give us a little taste.
No.
No. I did want to say you have a fantastic voice. Your voice, I mean, as you can tell, I have not been working on mine very much. But your voice you're very, very fantastic voice.
And see, I don't understand that. Like, that's something I hear that a lot, and I just do not hear it in my own voice. Now, granted, I'm very conscious of it, so I'm able to keep it up higher than it drops sometimes, but still, even at this level right now, I do not hear feminine voice. I hear pretty masked, a pretty obvious one. And so it still shocks me when I hear people say that my voice sounds feminine or is passable. It's like, again, it's just not something that can be in my brain. I still need to talk to my therapist.
So,
honey, well, it is. You got it.
So you mentioned Taylor Swift. Did anyone else hear that she's dating Travis Kelce?
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
old news. I'm sorry. That's been used way too many times. I just had to. But I got a question. You said that your voice, sometimes you can feel like that it drops. Do you, and I don't mean a sexual innuendo when I say this, I'm looking at you too. But do you feel that it's harder to get it up in the morning? Like,
yeah, I'm very, very grateful for the fact that I don't have anybody that I don't immediately jump into a situation where my voice matters. Because that would be rough. Yeah, there is a fair bit of dysphoria that it is very deep in first thing in the morning. And I still do this thing where like grunt or complain about something or whatever. Definitely if I'm upset, and usually in the morning, I'm a bit of a bear in the morning. It's coming from a grumpier place, and then it just sort of naturally is dropped because of that. And it's one of those where as soon as I open my mouth, it's instant dysphoria.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah, totally.
It's like I'm like,
I don't.
Oh, it's so great. Fuck you! Stop driving like that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand it. When I worked in retail sales, I normally didn't get to work until about 10 a.m. Now I work in banking where I get to work at 8:30 in the morning. And let me tell you, that first like hour and a half, my voice is like an octave lower, and I just can't grasp how to get it to where I'm comfortable with in that early morning hour. And so I'm sitting here, I'm like, is this just me? Is this a mental thing, or do other people go through this too? So I'm glad that we're kind of in that same boat.
I think it's very common, and I think on your way into work, you got to work on your vocal exercises and really warm up like you're a singer.
I think I have to. The issue is I like country music.
Oh, that is an issue.
I have the boots right here, girls. I have the boots right here.
Always
Um,
do.
I have a Zach Brown Band Spotify playlist that I love. So
America.
Fuck yeah.
But like my drive to work is very predominantly, Garth Brooks, George Strait, Tim McGraw. Maybe I need to
so
switch it up.
And
We
you know
gotta
that
go. Oh, we gotta go. OG Taylor.
I haven't been
my guitar.
I don't know why I haven't tried very hard to get into like the voice lessons and like going through YouTube videos and trying the exercises and stuff like that. I that's another thing for therapy. I don't know what holds me back on doing that, but I find that I make the most progress when I am listening to a very feminine singer, a little bit more high pitched and all that, and try and sing along with it. Again, really glad there's not a microphone there because it is nails on a chalkboard. But there's something about that really kind of teaches me, I feel, about the way women speak and especially sing, obviously, intonation and some of those things, like and pronunciation of vowels and things like that I struggle to be conscious of when I'm speaking a lot of times. And I feel like when I sing along with a female singer, that after that I'm able to I'm able to make more progress on making my voice sound the way I want to.
I'm one of my big jams right now, and don't ask me why, is Genie in a Bottle by Christina Aguilera. I just need to get like back into that like Christina Britney vibe. And then that's what I need to do on my drive in, on my commute. It's Christina and Britney.
Mm-hmm.
Britney,
yeah,
bitch.
get the Britney bitch vibes going like crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, just get your knives out and start dancing in the kitchen.
In my bikini. In my bikini. That's where I'm at.
Such a badass. That's awesome.
Free Britney movement done.
Mm-hmm.
Can we go back? Can we Uno reverse?
Before we end the regular, before we go to after hours for those who are subscribers to this sexy time, I did want to make sure that we have everybody who's interested in finding out more about you and or the Transverse. I'm going to put a little graphic right here. I'm going to put a lap on my timer so that I know that I asked this here. And I can't get into my phone. Lap. There we go. Okay. Where do people find you and find more information? And what's your Instagram, your website, your date of birth, your list of your fears,
social
driver's license
code
number
for things, your mother's maiden name, whichever one you want to answer. Actually,
so I'm a
graphic
and web designer by trade. So I've got a pretty decent website together. It needs work, but still it's pretty darn decent. That's the transverse.net. Actually, I really need to change it over. In part of this kind of rebuild, I need to finally change it over. I do own transverse.tv, and it does point to the transverse.net. So I should make that the main website because it's just so much easier. Transverse is not an incredibly unique word, so unfortunately social media has been a little bit more difficult. So that's why we have a .net, and then on Instagram it's the Transverse Network, but that's the best place to find out about everything that's going on there. I'm okay with posting on Instagram about the things that we're doing. If it's posted anywhere, it's going to be on that Instagram, so that's best. If you want to follow me personally and sort of my sillier random crap that I do here and there, that's Emily Would Go on Instagram. And those are probably the best. I did want to replug the Discord server because it is a really great community. It's no longer carries the Transverse brand, but it's still our baby, and it's run by Rosa, who's our IT person. So it is still Transverse family. It's called Transection. I should know that. Give me a second to bring up my freaking Discord.
We'll put it
I do
in
have
a
it.
big graphic too, right?
It is
about now.
Transection, non-plural. Yeah, that's still technically, transverse family, and there's a lot of great people in there. Really safe community, really loving. So I highly recommend you go and join that.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. You should get transverse.rocks because .rocks is a TLD now. So
Okay.
I
Just
bought.
more money to spend every year.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
I
right.
think I spend about like $200 a year just on domains. I have so many. Cool. Well, Rachel, do you wanna do the outro?
You know that I do.
Oh, you go, girl.
Damn.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us here on another fun, exciting episode of the Girl Dad Girls. Once again, we have got QT Danny B, Bree St. Marie, our new best friend Emily, and of course, my name is Ravishing Rachel. Until next time, my friends, love you.
Bye. I'm not gonna
Thanks,
call
everyone.
everybody dummies this time. Bye.
This has been a production of Girl Dad Girls Podcast. Check out new episodes every Thursday. If you are interested in knowing more, please email info@girldadgirls.com or find us on Instagram @girldadgirls. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.